Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Best MTG Decks Ever. I'm your host Joseph, and today I have the pleasure of bringing you a new invention that I came up with. So the way that I came up with this new deck was because of a card that I had when I was a kid, and that card is Siphon Soul. Siphon Soul is two colorless, one black, sorcery. Siphon Soul does 2 damage to all players except caster. Caster gains life points equal to the amount of damage done by Siphon Soul. So this card is a card from Legends. It came out in 1994, I believe. And as soon as I saw that card, I wanted to use it so much. But back then, the format was you had one enemy and it was just you, so you would play that card, you would cause them to take 2 damage, and you would gain 2 life, and it kind of sucked. But I've always wanted to do it. So now, in playing Commander, I pulled that card out and I said, how can I make a deck with this? And back then, my favorite colors were Golgari, black and green. So I said, okay, I've got Siphon Soul, and I want to do a Golgari spell deck. It's just something I've always wanted to do. So I checked out EDH Rec, I was looking online, MTG Goldfish, and I could not find any Golgari commanders that really fit any sort of spell theme. But I did find one that I could adapt to it. And that Golgari commander is Belbe, Corrupted Observer. Belbe Corrupted Observer is 1 black, 1 green. At the beginning of each player's post-combat main phase, that player adds 2 colorless for each of your opponents who lost life this turn. So, with Belbe, since Belbe kind of fit Siphon Soul, I cast it, it does damage to all of my enemies, and that's going to give me the boost from Belbe. So I can cast that card, and if I've got 3 enemies, I get 6 colorless mana for that turn to use. That was kind of the starting off point for this deck, and it just kind of snowballed from there. In having Belbe as a commander, I knew that I was going to need cards to activate her ability so I could get lots of mana. So some of the main staples for that are Sanctum of Stone Fangs. This is an enchantment, 1 colorless, 1 black. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life, where X is the number of shrines you control. And there are a number of other cards that have similar effects. So the top ones that I have for that are Palace Siege, Triskaidekaphobia, we'll just call it Triska, Shepherd of Rot, Loyal Subordinate, and Cryptolith Fragment. And the reason why those are the top enablers of her ability are because they're either hard to hit, like they're an enchantment, and also the ability just happens. It happens every single turn. So every single turn, my Sanctum of the Stonefang is going to enable Belbe's ability, and then I get a bunch of free mana so that I can cast a bunch of sorceries in instants. I've also got a bunch of other cards that do the same thing, although they're not as good. So, for example, like Deathrite Shaman. Deathrite Shaman costs 1 swamp or 1 green. It's got one of those multi-things, and then I can pay 1 swamp to exile target instant or sorcery card from a graveyard. Each opponent loses 2 life. So that one's kind of good, but I have to invest mana into it every turn, whereas like with Sanctum of Stonefang, I don't have to do that. I've got some other stuff. I've got like a spell, like Crushing Disappointment. Crushing Disappointment is 3 colorless, 1 black, instant. Each player loses 2 life. You draw 2 cards. That one's not like one of the top ones, but it'll get the effect. I get to draw 2 cards, so that one works. And then I've got some like kind of lower level ones, like Mardu Shadow Spear. It's just 1 black. It's a 1/1 creature, and whenever Mardu Shadow Spear attacks, each opponent loses 1 life. But I've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 enablers. Actually, 17 enablers for this deck to enable Belbe's ability. So, what I want to do is, when I'm playing this deck, is I want to get out one of my enablers, get Belbe out, and I am running a couple of cards, but the main one, this is how I do the most shenanigans with this deck, is I will cast Reshape the Earth. Reshape the Earth is 6 colorless, 3 green, search your library for up to 10 land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. So this card is what, I mean, like when I first played it and I really experienced the power of this deck and like what it does, that's all I needed to see. This is one of my most favorite decks, hands down. So with Reshape the Earth, you go and you get to pull 10 cards from your deck. And the trick to this is you are going to be running Cabal Coffers, Vesuva, and Urborg Tome of Yawgmoth, as well as a couple of other key cards for that you'll always want to pull. But I'll get into those a little bit later. So when you cast Reshape the Earth, you're always going to be getting at least those 3 cards. And along with... just those 3 cards. So essentially, once you cast that card, you're going to get 2 Cabal Coffers, and all your lands become swamps. And then you just have a crap ton of mana in order to do more shenanigans with the deck. Some other notable lands that you'll be pulling out is Darkmoss Bridge. Darkmoss Bridge is very important to the win con of this deck because it is indestructible. And I guess with bringing that up, there is another indestructible card, and you'll also probably want Darksteel Citadel because it's indestructible. Now, that brings up the win con of this deck. The win con of this deck involves Chain of Acid. Chain of Acid is 3 colorless, 1 green, sorcery. Destroy target non-creature permanent. Then that permanent's controller may copy the spell and may choose a new target for that copy. So, if you have your Darkmoss Bridge, it's indestructible. That means that when you cast Chain of Acid, you can cast it on Darkmoss Bridge, and then copy it, cast it on it again, copy it, cast it on it again, ad infinitum, and that gives you infinity sorcery spells. And with that, then you've got cards that can give you a payoff from that mechanic. So 4 of those cards are Witherbloom Apprentice, 1 black, 1 green, Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So it's an instant win if you pull that off. Next one up is Professor Onyx. Professor Onyx is 4 colorless, 2 black, and it is a planeswalker. All of the other abilities are inconsequential for this, but it has Magecraft. She has Magecraft. When you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Another infinity win. I've got some other cards in here that aren't infinite wins, but if you pull them off, it gets you, I mean, it makes it to where, you will only lose if your opponent has something equally powerful or they have an auto win mechanic. So I've got Witherbloom, Pledge Mage, 3 colorless, and 2 Golgari pips, and it has Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, you gain 1 life, so you get instant infinity life. And then I've also got Sedgemoor Witch, 2 colorless, 1 black, and it has Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token that reads, when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. So you get infinity 1/1 creatures. So that is the main way to win. And then you'll be asking, well, Joseph, how do I ensure that I get Reshape the Earth? Well, we ensure that we get Reshape the Earth by running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 tutors. Because we're a spell deck, so it fits with the theme to be running a bunch of tutors. So I'm running Vampiric Tutor, Worldly Tutor, Crop Rotation, Demonic Tutor, Profane Tutor, Cruel Tutor, Grim Tutor, Beseech the Queen, Dark Petitioner, Runescar Demon, and Diabolic Revelation. So so basically, like, what I do is when I'm playing this deck is I use my tutors to get Reshape the Earth. I use Belbe's ability to get the mana for Reshape the Earth. So I'm usually casting Reshape the Earth by like turn 3 or 4, usually around like 4. And what that does is it gets me those 10 lands. So I've already got about 4 lands out on the board by the time I get this taken care of. The tutors just help me like make sure that the deck is doing what it needs to do. You run Reshape the Earth, you get your 10 lands out there. 2 of them are Cabal Coffers. Everything is a swamp. You've got, at like you enable, you pay 3, or what is it? It's not 3. It's you pay 2 and tap your Cabal Coffers. So your 14 lands goes down to 11, but then that gives you 14 mana, and then from that 14 mana, then you use 3 of that to use their other Cabal Coffers. So you're going to have just plethoras of mana. Some other cards that I use to ensure that I'm going to get what I need and also be able to manipulate my graveyard to bring back anything that I lose. Because if Reshape the Earth gets countered, I'm going to need to get it back. But I've got some draw spells. I've got Siphon Mind, Harmonize, Ambition's Cost, Ancient Crossing, Ancient Craving, Damnable Pack. And then I've got some interesting hybrid cards. So these hybrid cards are, they destroy creatures, but they also draw me cards. So Overwhelming Forces is 6 colorless, 2 black, sorcery, destroy all creatures target opponent controls, draw a card for each creature destroyed this way. Amazing draw mechanic, and it also gets rid of a threat on the board. Next up is Dredge of Sorrows. It is X, 4 colorless, 1 black, destroy X target non-black creatures, draw X cards. And Decree of Pain, 6 colorless, 2 black, destroy all creatures, they can't be regenerated, draw a card for each creature destroyed this way. So there's a lot of draw, and some of it is like a hybrid form of destruction. And I'm running some other really nasty destruction spells in here that are really high cost mana, like Plague Wind, Ingaruk's Wake, Necromantic Selection, as well as some other big spell slinging cards. I can go over those right now. Running Azuri's Predation and Army of the Damned to be getting tokens on the board. For my X spells, I've got Pest Infestation, perfect for removal of enchantments and artifacts and getting me a bunch of pests that I can use to block while I'm waiting to brew my little combo. Exsanguinate and Torment of Hailfire. And Torment of Hailfire is another win condition of the deck. Now, if any crucial pieces get destroyed, sent to the graveyard, exiled, I have a way to get those back. So some of those cards that I'm running are, if something's in exile, I've got Rift Sweeper. Rift Sweeper is 1 colorless, 1 green. When Rift Sweeper enters the battlefield, choose target face-up exiled card. Its owner shuffles it into his or her library. So I can get that back into my library, use my tutor, get Reshape the Earth, cast it, boom, keep going. If I just need to get stuff from the graveyard, I've got Noxious Revival, Seasons Past, and my favorite that works for this deck is Praetor's Consul. Praetor's Consul reads 5 colorless, 3 green, return all cards from your graveyard to your hand. Exile Praetor's Consul, you have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. I've used this quite a bit, and it's amazing because you can cycle through cards very quickly with this deck because you've got so much mana, so much draw, so many things to do. And so your graveyard gets pretty thick. You pop that out there, boom. Now your hand is like 20 cards deep, and you're recasting all of the Savage stuff that you've already cast. Let's see, what else am I running in here? I've got 1 Skyclave Relic. It's just a little bit of ramp and artifact, but I mainly have it there for its indestructible. It's just part of the win con with Chain of Acid. I also run Primal Amulet. Primal Amulet is going to help me double spells. So if I can get Primal Amulet out and then I'm doing some of this stuff like a Torment of Hailfire, I can copy it. If I reshape the earth, well, now I'm not getting 10 lands, I'm getting 20 lands, which is basically ripping every land out of my deck. And then I've got one little curb stomper, Emrakul, the Promised End. 15 colorless, Eldrazi, 13/13. Emrakul Emrakul the Promised costs one less for each card type in the graveyard, which doesn't even matter because we're going to have so much mana in this. Like, we're going to have access to so much mana, we can always cast this. But the real fun part is when you cast Emrakul, you gain control of target opponent during that player's next turn. After that turn, that player gets another turn. So basically, you get to take out your greatest threat when it comes around to them. And I believe I have covered most of the deck. I feel 100% like amazed by this. I set out to do this is a really unique deck that I haven't seen. I've been looking online. I mean, I'm sure other people have done something in Golgari spell, but I've never seen anything like this. Seems like a whole brand new take on using Belbe, and it's pretty disgusting. Yeah, well, I hope you guys like the idea. I really can't wait to hear if anyone builds this deck and goes out and have fun with it. It is my most favorite deck now. Well, I hope you guys really appreciate and enjoy this deck. If you do build it, please let me know how it goes. And if you have any ideas or suggestions for cards to put in the deck, please let me know. Leave a comment. And thank you very much for watching. See y'all later. Bye.